Well, hello then. Here we are with another episode of Dance Gems. This is one out of two series. Who are actually the Dance Gems? And it's a little bit impolite to start with yourself, but the first episode is about me. Ton, my good friend, he is going to interview me. So let's ask him in the show. Hey, welcome, Ton.
Hey, Sean, good day. Hello, listeners.
Yes, this is another episode of Dance Gems, and today we are going to introduce ourselves. That's a little bit weird, but maybe it's a good thing. Yeah, who are the Dance Gems? Part one. Who is Jean Dorff? Um, well, hello, Ton. Let's get started. I am curious
Hello,
what kind of
Sean.
questions you have for me.
Yes, I have a few questions, a lot of questions because I prepared it. So, who is Sean Dorff and what is Sean Dorff doing actually and where he is living? That would be very interesting for me and for the listeners also, I hope.
Oh, yeah, yeah, well, okay. So, I am, of course, I'm Jean Dorff. That's my name. I am originally from the Netherlands, where you see me, blonde hair and blue eyes. And but currently, I live in the United States, in the state of Texas, and close to the city of Dallas.
Okay, so you live in Dallas.
Hmm.
Um, what job you are doing actually? Of course, something with dancing, but what exactly, Sean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's I hardly call it a job like you don't call your what you do a job. So I like to call it a profession. I'm a professional dancer and dance teacher or instructor. I'm not so fond about the word instructor, but we like the word teacher a little bit more. I'm also a coach. I coach specifically women with a sexual abuse background, and those are the two things that I am most passionate about if it comes to a profession.
Okay. How you came to dance and to that profession actually? Can you tell something about that one? Because
Oh,
you were
yeah.
and maybe your age and what you were doing in
Mm.
all these years, how you developed that one. Oh, so many questions. So, but start where you want to start, Sean.
Okay, well, let's start with the age. Let's get that out of the way. I'm 62 years old. I was born in 1960. I came to dance a little bit late in life. That's a whole story in itself. But at some point in time, I fell so in love with ballroom dancing. Just for all the listeners, if you don't know what ballroom dancing is, most of you probably do. That's actually when you dance, one, two people dancing together on very, known dances like a cha-cha-cha and a quick step and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but fate, Fate, brought me one day to the dance floor. I always loved dancing, by the way, but not in a formal way. And so I decided to take some official dance lessons, and I fell so much in love with it that I found a way to make it my profession. Yeah, that's a true story.
Yes, the dance industry is quite huge, big,
Hmm.
how you can call it.
Yeah.
And in the earlier days and also now, there are people who are influence you in the dance industry.
Yeah, there are many, of course. As a young person, I definitely love dancing already, at least to watch, and then specifically, the Hollywood and the Broadway styles is that definitely something that I like to watch. Gene Kelly, Fred Astaire. For the younger people, they might not exactly know who those people are, but they were my heroes, and so that's what I watched. And then later on, when I got a little bit more interested in classical ballet, I followed a guy named called Rudolf Nureyev and Bareshnikov. So these are famous dancers. There were also a little bit less famous dancers, but those are two that I definitely Nureyev that I followed. I liked his story of life and I liked his story of dance. Although personally, I immediately felt classical ballet, that's probably not something for me. I was a martial artist, and When I started to dance, and I started to fall in love with competitive dancing, which is ballroom dancing, but then in a competitive setting. We probably come back on that later in an episode too, what that is. I started to follow quite a few competitive dances that I really liked, and but from a teaching perspective, I was most influenced, maybe first of all, by my first dance teacher. His name is Ton Hennesse. He stimulated and he recognized my enthusiasm. Um, then I met a good friend, Wil van Roesel. Unfortunately, he passed away, but we became good friends. But he was also my first competitive dance teacher, so to speak. And then from there on, he started to send me to other people. First in the Netherlands, Mr. Ruud van Meij is definitely someone that I still actually take lessons from. But he was highly influential to what I do, and a lot of other teachers started to follow that row. And then I saw a lot of people that influenced me, maybe not because I knew them, but just because I saw them dancing in a way. Yeah, you're muted, Tom.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And did people inspire you, but they no, they influence you or inspire you? These are two different words.
Yeah, they are definitely two different words. Yeah, yeah. I think that with the dance teaching, maybe it has some people were more influential in how I teach and the knowledge that I have. But if I think about inspiration, is it also sometimes people who inspired me just because I thought they were beautiful dancers? But there are also some people who just had a different slant on how to teach, which Ritu, who used a lot of psychology and mental training in there. That was definitely inspiration for me to follow that path. At that time, there was something that we called the Dutch Dance Sport Academy, and so I followed it there. And there were some people that I think were influential on me to see how you could coach dancers as well. So Peter Townsend was one of them as well, and they also had a strong mental approach towards dancing, which I thought that was strange that it was not there. I was a martial artist, and it actually that put me very quickly on a path of being a mental coach in dancing. Um, yeah,
So this inspired you also to develop yourself in and to develop your own method. Is that correct, Sean? You have a
yeah.
own method. Yes.
Well, I can't say that I have an own method now, and as all, that the world of dancing is maybe less structured than most people think, right? If it comes to the formal steps, how to do a cha cha cha, and then you can go and get your license there. But literally, if it comes to the teaching of dance, and specifically when you go back in the time, Ton, when you and I started to teach, how to teach was basically something that you had to figure out yourself, right? So we took private lessons, you and I, and not together, but from several people. And we, in the beginning, we just mirrored or mimic how other people were teaching. And since I was already a teacher in martial arts, I had a different type of doing that. And yeah, I started to develop my own method of mental coaching and dance teaching. That is correct, Tom. Yeah.
This is also your core of your
Yeah, I
method.
think. Yeah, I think the whole, you and I call it an holistic approach, and that's why I call it my dance method, holistic dance approach, um, where we don't only teach people steps, which was very traditional ballroom dancing teaching, right? We teach people steps, right? But yeah, I look at the whole, not only the mental part, but the mental part has a pretty heavy part in what I teach, at least. But it doesn't stand on its own, so to speak. It's not only about putting your right foot in front of your left foot. It's the whole body, and it's definitely the whole mind. And if you're open to it, we talk about the soul too.
So I can call it dance industry because it's quite huge.
Yeah.
And what you enjoy the most of it there in that industry?
Ooh, that's a that's an interesting question. I must honestly say, what I enjoy in dancing is what dancing to me is about. You know, there are a lot of things. I'm not the one who said it, but I think it's a very clever thing to say. There are a lot of things that we do in life, for instance, and sports. Not only sports, but in activities. But let's stick to the word sports for a moment. If you play soccer, then the goal is to get the ball in the goal, right? That's the goal. And if it happens in a really beautiful way, then that's great too. If you're a martial artist or a boxer, you know, your goal is to, you know, put your opponent down. And if that happens in a very beautiful way, then that's great. But dancing is slightly different, at least that's what I feel. In dancing, the goal of the movement is the movement itself very often. You know, it could be a story around it, but it is actually the goal is the movement in itself. And I always thought that was a very interesting way of looking at things. And I just like movement. I just like movement in general. And I think, you know, the ultimate form of that is dancing, if that makes any sense. It doesn't always have to have a meaning. It's just could just be a movement, right? And that's what inspires me, to be honest.
Hmm. Yes, there is a difference between you and other teachers then in the same industry, like in the Latin industry. There's a
Uh,
difference between you and them then,
well, I hope there is a
because you have
difference.
because yeah, because you study also mental coach,
Yeah, I
and
did. Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
most of teacher they call them, and not a teacher, they call themselves a trainer.
yeah.
And I think there is a difference between a teacher, a trainer, a coach, because mental coach,
An
uh,
instructor. Yeah,
instructor, yes, there
yeah,
are difference in it. And yeah, maybe you can tell something about it. What makes
yeah.
the difference for you
Yeah.
and
Well,
between them?
I think there is. I hope there is a difference between all of us. After all, we are all very unique, right? So if I say that I'm different, then that's not to set me apart in a positive way. It is just difference from that point of view. I do hope that people make a stronger distinction also in what we do between coaches, teachers, and instructors specifically. We, in layman terms, you know, in normal talking, we just mix all these things up. But in reality, I think a coach is entirely something different than a teacher, and it could be in one person, right? A teacher could be also the coach of a, but we are a young sport in those terms if you think about it, because if you go to other sports, for instance, if you go to soccer, there is definitely a difference between, you know, the main coaches. You have mental coaches, and they're all different roles. So I like to take the role often as a mental coach, but I sometimes also take the role as a choreographer, and it has all to do with how to develop. I think that's a different thing where I can clearly see that I, for instance, could work. And we do that, by the way, but I can work with you together, Ton, where we have different roles in the development of the dancer for. And I'm not saying that's not true for other people, by the way, but I'm just saying if we look at the development of a dancer, we can decide as coaches and together with the dancers what do you need the most at some point in time. And sometimes it needs a little bit more emphasis on the mental side, and sometimes maybe a little bit more on you know, on the ability side, and sometimes it needs a little bit more emphasis on the skill side, and those are different roles.
Hmm.
That's how I see it. And then last, I talk a lot. I always talk a lot, by the way, guys. But you know that already, right? And I think mental coaching is a special trait, and we all know something about mental coaching. And I happen to just have my interest there and studied it for a long time. So I dare to say, yeah, I know a little bit more about mental coaching than an average person, and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm sure there are a lot of people who knows a little bit more about the cha 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 than me, and that's fine too, or about choreography, and I think that makes it really good. It's not a competition in that case.
Yes. How much a mental coach would be take a part of the
Hmm.
performance?
Yeah.
Would be that a lot or less or
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting that you said that because I interviewed. Well, actually, I did not interview it, but in a conference that I organized last year. Was it last year? Yeah, I think it was last year. We interviewed an ex-world champion, Latin American dancing, and that's a competitor. Most people that listen to us know what it is, but if you don't know what it is, we have special disciplines where we have championships. And then he is an ex world champion, so that at least says something about the level that he performed
i-
on. And his
in
name
what, Sean?
in Latin American dancing.
In the amateur division or
In there, he
professionals?
was,
Because I know.
yeah, he was a world champion in amateur division, and later become one of the top dancers in the professional division too. He never got a world title there though. Um, and just I mean just almost side talk, but for us being a world champion in the amateur division means a lot. You know, there is in the dance world there is the way we look at professional and amateurs is slightly different than in a lot of other sports. um but anyhow, his name, he said it, so I can repeat his name. His name was Franco Formica, or is Franco Formica, and we asked him, hey, if there is one thing that you would do different, and that was before he and I talked, by the way, is there one thing that you would different in your dance career, what would that be? And he said, his first answer was immediately, I would approach my mental side of the dancing completely different by working on that from the get-go, from the beginning. So that's one side. The other side, if you research it, Tom, and you ask people, hey, in normal life, what is, if you, how much is mentally decided for you? How much important is the mental side of normal life? People probably would say 80, 90%, which actually goes together with research. Now, if you ask people how much do you practice on your mental side, then that is often very often zero. There is zero conscious practice on the mental side. Now, I'm not saying that you should do 80% maybe when you're an athlete, but at least, you know, shift a little bit to conscious practicing your mental side. And the reason is a lot of people don't know what exercises to do. They don't know how to do that. We know how to, you know, run, and we know how to make our body stronger often. At least we think we know how to do that, but we don't know how to do a mental exercise. And specifically, we don't know how to do mental exercises specifically geared toward dancing.
When I reflected to myself when I was young,
Hmm.
I already had a lot in myself. I was close to my own power, but I was not aware of it. And I didn't had teacher who follow me in my thoughts. And this one makes me not unconscious, but it would help when I had more tools for it and to stand as a human being more stronger in my own shoes. And this is actually a pity, but anyway, I was quite sure about myself what I wanted.
Yeah.
Only the people around me could not follow me sometimes.
Yeah, I can, I recognize that we didn't know each other personally, but of course I saw you as a as a dancer. But I thought you were, by the way, one of the stronger mental people because you had a very strong will in what you wanted and you did it. Whether everyone was agreeing with it, you didn't care much. Of course, you would like to be acknowledged. Who doesn't want to? But that's a sign of mental strength. Whether that's always the right choices for that moment, that's a whole different discussion. That's also not for me to judge upon, but it shows a certain mental strength to do the things that that you do. If you are a little bit more conformative to, what other people do, or what you think that other people want from you, that is not always a sign of mental strength. Right? There are many ways how we can use mental strength, but the easiest ways to explain this, Tom, is that a lot of people think that mental coaching has a lot to do with motivation. I motivate you to do things, which is maybe part of it, but it's only a very small part of it. It's like taking a Red Bull right before you need to do something to get some extra energy. By the way, Red Bull is not a good thing, but just as an analogy for a story. And mental coaching is your nutrition. You do that every day with everything you do. You build it into your whole practice regime to become, in this case, a better athlete or a better dancer. That's basically the big difference, right? And
Yes.
so
Yes, I say always to myself, what the brain not knows, the body cannot do. And both together, 50 physical, 50 from your mental, together is 100. So you need both in balance. And if you have the tools for it, then it makes life more easier because you are get more by your own being. This is how I understand it.
yeah. Yeah, I try not to divide it in 50-50, to be
Oh
really
no, what?
honest. But I just always think that it is a way we talk about the body and mind is because it's easier to talk about it, but it is actually part of, in English, we say, of the same mesh. It is your body and mind is literally one. There's no two
Yes, yes,
different
yes,
parts. There are
absolutely.
actually, well, I don't want to call it illnesses, maybe, but for the lack of better words, there are things that you can suffer from where people have a split of body and mind, where when they look at themselves, they see actually something different than what the reality actually is. So, one form of that is, for instance, anorexia. It's a very serious thing if someone has that, and we need to see that. But there you can clearly see that what the mind thinks the body is completely different than what the body is itself. You have other dysmorphia type of things where you can see that you can learn a lot from those things. So one thing that I wrote about is where people feel that their arm doesn't belong to their body anymore, and it can go so far that they ask a surgeon to amputate it because it will help them from a mental point of view. It's a really weird phenomena, but it shows that when there is a true split of body and mind, it can cause really big problems in someone' personal health. And I do think that media, as we see it today, sometimes actually is not helpful in that way. An over how do you say that, an over emphasis how we need to look, and how important that is, or the flip side, Ton, you and I talk sometimes about it, the body shaming can cause all these problems. And I think dance
Yes,
can be super instrumental on the wrong side. I mean, we have seen both bad and good examples, but it can definitely also be very instrumental on helping people to see that more as that is just you, your body and mind. That's all you. It's not only your body,
yes.
and yeah. So that's
That's what I
definitely where
thought
I'm coming
also.
from. Yes, that's where.
Yes, this is what I also thought. Actually, it's both are when they are in harmony, you can say you are happy in what it is at
Yeah,
that moment. If it's like a marriage is between these two, and when you the marriage is bad from one side or from both sides, then there is, I could say, there you lose a lot of happiness, maybe not a lot, but there is not happiness in it. So try to get happiness in your physical situation, no injuries, feel enough power, and yeah, and in the brain also. You have a quite expensive word for that one, the phenomenology, how you perceive the world in your mind and with your body. And when you can perceive that, and you can understand it also. You get more. Yeah, I could. You can understand it more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing, and there's a lot of thought and research around it, because that makes us a human. The awareness of the fact that we are a being, that's literally the sign of being human, right? We have
Mhm.
not seen that in animals. We might actually see it, maybe strangely enough, in some animals that has a higher form or intellect, like like dolphins and elephants. And by the way, there's a really nice documentary coming out about elephants and how that they have that. But human beings have a higher level of awareness, so we are literally aware of our body and our thinking. And that has beautiful things, obviously, but that has also that kind of downside that we sometimes try to split the two.
Sean,
Hmm.
Sean, I have one other question because the time is short, maybe one
Hmm.
hour, and I want to know a lot more of you.
Yeah,
I
go
have
ahead.
your book here, Broken
Hmm.
Silence: Living with a Passion and Propose After Sexual Abuse.
With purpose, yeah.
Here, the
Yeah.
purpose, yes. You write that book, A Dancer Story with Jean Dorff. Of course, that would be a whole podcast, but what is the correlation between a dancer story and the sexual abuse?
Yeah. Well, so first of all, it's it's an autobiography of the story of my abuse, right? And and a little bit more important is how I got out of the, how do you say that, the effects of the abuse, right? So Ton is showing that in. So I give people. I will tell you later on how to get the book. By the way, the proceeds of the book goes to a non-profit organization. I wanted just to say that. So if a child like me was abused, as long as I was abused, that has a lot of effect on both the mental and the physical side, obviously. And I saw that a lot of people were not dealing with that well. That some of the traditional things were not all working for them to move beyond the abuse. And one of the things is that people that were abused or are abused actually have a hard time to find more in life than just getting by. They think there is no passionate life anymore. There's less of a purpose in their life, because their life was pretty much ruined from a very young age on. And I think there is still purpose and passion in that life, no matter where you are. And for me, why I called it a dancer story is because my passion was in dance, and I think to a large extent that passion saved me, because it gave me a goal and it gave me a purpose. And that's why I call it a dancer story. And there are other sexual abuse victims that I work with, and they might have another passion, and it could be, I don't know, cooking, and they could definitely call it a cooking story, because through your passion and your purpose, once you find that, then you can achieve a lot in life. And there's very interesting theories around how important purpose is in someone's life. I think it's the highest form you can try to go after, um, and that is what purpose that you have. And there are enormous nice quotes around it. Your goal in life is to find your purpose, and the second goal in life is to live that purpose. Yeah. So you're on mute on.
Yes, where you can order that book, Sean?
It My book is it's already a bestseller through Amazon. So I would just always say, to get it to Amazon. If you are a Dutch listener, you can also get it to bol.com. And most online stores, they carry the book, but they, to be very honest, full disclosure, they all order it through Amazon. So I would just say go directly to Amazon and order there. Broken Silence by my name is yeah. So thank you for.
So yes, in your dance as a teacher,
Hmm.
Sean, what were your goals there? And before a teacher, you were a dancer, and
Mm-hmm.
before you were, say, a competitive dancer, you were a social dancer.
Yeah.
And how is that development for you, and what are the goals in that one when you are social dancer, competitive dancer? Because for the art world, this is quite strange in the dancing world to be a competitive dancer,
Yeah, it is.
because dancing is actually, I think by myself, an art, more an art, but this is only for me, maybe for other people too. And then you were, now you are a teacher mainly. So what are the goals in that one? So there are different goals in it.
Yeah, there are different goals. I had very little goals in the social dancing, except that I thought, it would be nice to know how to do a little bit of what we at that time call, social dancing from ballroom perspective. Because if you went to go to a party in the time that we grew up, like a wedding or something, often, they were dancing a foxtrot or a cha-cha, something like that. So I thought it would be a nice skill to have and also a fun thing to do. But very quickly, I was attracted immediately to what we call competitive dancing, and I'm a little bit a competitor by heart. I've been a very long spent a long time in martial arts in competing there, so I have that. But I was mostly attracted to the fact that you can express yourself bodily and mentally through the form of dancing. So I saw the art side of it. To be honest, Don, I was, and still am, by the way, hugely attracted to this really weird form of doing something that you can call an art form and do that in a competitive setting, which is actually really, really weird if you think about it. And then you also do it not only one couple at a time, typically dancing goes with couples, but you do it with a lot of people at the same time.
And
And
what is a couple, Sean?
a couple is
Married couple?
no, no, no. Married couple is it could be a married couple, but it's not a requirement. It's actually it could be two people that dancing together, and that could be boy boy. Boy girl is a little bit more traditional, but it can also be girl girl in any form that you have nowadays, which is a beautiful thing. But very traditional people still see it as a man woman or a boy girl. To be honest, and that's and they compete in all the dances that I just mentioned and a few more, and I got an attraction in there. And when I started to dance, I wanted it. I wanted to be one of those strong competitive dancers, right? If possible, maybe even become a champion in it, whatever that means, and that grows into you. People started to tell me that I was too old to reach a certain level of dancing. Now I never listened to anyone in that perspective, to be honest. So I did my thing anyhow, and so that was my goal to at least go to the larger competitions and be allowed to do these open amateur competitions and later professional competitions. Did that, of course. Very quickly of where I was in age, I got asked to coach people and got a huge interest in doing that and develop choreographies and mental coaching and training schedules for them and did that too, and that's still what I'm doing. And my ultimate goal now is still to see if that can be further developed in helping and coaching other dancers to do more. So there's a personal goal in just to gain more knowledge and more skill to teach. But I have a stronger goal now in the teaching and the coaching, but I still have some sort of a need. Maybe I should not do that in public anymore, but as a joke. But I still have a need to dance myself, Tom. And I don't know where that takes me. It's actually something that came up quite recently, very strongly again, saying, hey, I started this whole dance adventure to dance myself. And the least that I do lately is dance myself, maybe. So I have a stronger need to do that again. In what form of fashion? You and I started a few years ago to make a dance on my book Broken Silence. That's still an unfinished business, and I think we need to finish that too. So that would be a good opportunity to push me a little bit as a dancer as well. And I also think,
Absolutely.
Ton, where you and I together. in specifically in our world, sometimes there is something about age. At some point in time, maybe you should not dance anymore, and I think we should dance on any age. And I have a strong feeling that I need to do that too, and maybe give some other people at our age a little bit of an inspiration that you can dance on any
Yes.
age, and that's actually very good to do that. So
I think I think it's more judgment from the outside,
it
Sean.
is, it
And
is.
yes, and actually, when you are 62, it's very important to move. And what it's not more beautiful to do this with the passion you have with dance.
I totally
So
agree.
you are busy with your body and mind, and try to put something there as a form. And it I think it has not I'm sure it has only positive things.
Oh yeah.
um yeah, when you get an injury, of course, then it gets but anyway, it's good for your body and mind to do that, and keep your yeah it keeps you healthy, and you can get more energy from it, and you can discover also what you are doing with your body and mind, and how to put that in space time.
Yeah.
What is a different discussion, I think.
Yeah, it's a different discussion, and I do think that, by still practicing dance, there's also, I mean, when we teach you, what I know, when we teach, we move quite a bit, right? And specifically, if you make choreographies, we still move quite a bit, and so we stay fit, but just to purely dance, not for yourself, but as a dancer, as a performer, or as a dancer is something that I still have, ambitions in.
Yeah.
That is for sure.
So, what you would like to see then in the development of our dance industry, and mainly we come from the ballroom Latin world. So, would there something what you would like to see there? How the dancers dance in these days? What they, how they perform?
Yeah, I would like to see that they dance with, where I truly can see that dancers make their own choices in what they want to dance. Now, every dance style and every dance form has some sort of a cater around it. There is something that you need to do that people say, oh, that's hip hop, or that is more like a popping style, or there's more like, lyrical hip hop, and there's more. So there is also something that has defines us and saying, hey, this is typically a ballroom cha-cha-cha or a ballroom. So, but that's a very loose cater. I think that's how I see it. So I would like for dancers to make their own choices in that, within those boundaries that we have. I also would hope that they make the choices not so to please other people what they want to see, because it's a sport that will be judged. So we see a lot of people who try to dance to what the judges want to see, and I would like to change that. I would like to actually almost challenge the judges to see when they see something new on the floor, like, hey, maybe I need to change my judging because this is, I like this, or I don't like it. That's fine too with me. So that's what I would like to see. There's a lot of talk about freedom of dance. And that's another thing that I want to see. I think that competitive dancers need to go dance in any association that's out there, and it sounds maybe a little bit fake. There are many associations of dance, and they are not always helping the dancers. They sometimes competing with each other. So in my ideal world, I hope that that goes away one day. Um, we could do a whole different podcast how that world looks like at the moment. And when I started as a dancer, I didn't know anything about these things, and there was a really, really nice feeling. I just felt that I could dance wherever I wanted, and that feeling I would like that dancers always have in any level that they have, that they can go with their craft and with what they're passionate about, and that they can practice that wherever they want. Maybe within those boundaries that I set. If you do a ballroom dancing, then maybe you
Mhm.
don't go to a hip hop competition, but any other way
No,
around.
yes, Anyway, Sean, it would be definitely get a podcast about judging in the dance
Yep.
industry of hip hop
Mm.
or contemporary or in the even in the ballet world
Oh,
to have
that's yeah.
competitions,
Yeah.
and in the Latin and in the ballroom world it's more common.
Yep.
But this is definitely a different podcast. I have a question in my mind, like when you want to dance and you never dance, you have a advice for them as a mental coach or as a human being, and people who already dance and have a many experience.
Yep.
Do you have also advice for them? Because there are common things in both of them,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think.
you have good questions. So let me start with the people who are not dancing at all, right? And who maybe feel, and then maybe it's recent, or maybe it's a long wish that they had to learn how to dance. I can have a simple advice: just start doing it, right? Start dancing and start exploring as many things that you can. If you already know that you are attracted to one or two styles, then that's fine too, of course. But sometimes you don't know what you don't know, right? So if you start there, start to find a style or a form that you like. Don't confine you immediately into that. And then the one thing that I definitely want to say to beginners dancers is it's a little bit of a trap that we all fall into is we immediately think that we have to fulfill to something. And what I mean is like I need to know now these certain steps before I can dance. The only thing that I want to say, you can already dance. You might not be able to do the formal dance as that was brought to you by a studio, but you can already dance. And that's the mindset you need to have, I think. I hope you have when you dance, because I see some people coming into our studio and they want to dance, and then suddenly we touch, you need to do this with your left foot and that with your right hand. And I think that is learning someone a trick and not someone how to dance. That's, I said it. Hate me for it if you want to, but that's how I think about it. There's something fun in it, learning formal dances, by the way. Don't misunderstand me either, right? But there's room enough to express yourself in another way. So that's dancing. Um, and then if it comes to the already people who are into dancing, there is no end of it. You don't have to stop ever how to dance. That would be, I hear people saying, I'm going to stop with dancing. And then I say, why? Can you find another way that fits maybe with the circumstances that you are in now? And it could be age and it could be different family circumstances. Um, because all those people that stopped, and the only thing that I hear from them is that they kind of regretted that they stopped. And specifically the competitive dancers and ballroom dancing, they really often think that there is that, now I stop competitive dancing and they kind of stop dancing altogether. I think, if that's really what you want, go do it. But I still meet people all the time who said, yeah, I kind of regretted it. So why don't spend a little bit more time? Can I maybe change what I'm doing right now within the circumstances that I'm in and still do the passion and the things that I love so much? Does that make sense, Don? And then the people with a strong competitive heart like I have, I still think you can try to reach whatever you want to reach. You know, there is no limit.
Yes.
There is no
Actually,
limit.
you can dance till you are dying, but
Yeah,
still you are on your top somewhere,
exactly.
and this I would develop as a maximum there and enjoy that
Exactly.
as a dancer and discover what that body can discover. Even now on my age and your age, it's also possible. Only we have to do probably a little bit more for it and sometimes be also more careful for our body.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that's the
Mhm.
circumstances that I was talking about. But yeah, and one. I mean, I am blessed with a healthy body at the age of 62. And who knows? That's not always given how long that lasts. But within the circumstances that you have, and actually you can bend the circumstances maybe a little bit stronger if you put your body behind it. So besides all the health and the mental benefits that you have, there's a lot of fun and social interactivity with dance. um, so yeah, that's what I think. Hey, Ton went away. The camera went away. I am alone in the recording of that dance jam. So I hope Ton will call me back really quick, um, because Um, okay, so let me fill up this this podcast by myself, and hopefully Ton will call back in. These are the little technical difficulties that you have when you make a podcast here, dear listeners. I think we were close to finish it off, but I hope Ton will call back. Let me just contact him. Yes, he is there. Hey Ton,
Sorry, Sean.
that's okay.
I Yes,
I
I'm there again. My computer said bye bye.
Yeah, well, I was explaining to our listeners and viewers, saying, "Hey, that's the challenge that you have when you do a podcast. That little technical things happened." So I filled up the time, and it was only a few seconds. Um, yeah, dancing on any age. That's definitely a topic that we will bring in this podcast. By the way, people in the podcast Dance Gems. Have you any more questions, Ton? I can always talk. So.
Yes, absolutely, Sean. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And what is your. No, actually, I have another question
Mm-hmm.
because I know you told me you're busy with two books, two new ones,
Yeah, I
and I
do.
want
Yeah,
to know what books these are.
yeah,
Please, can you tell me that?
yeah. So I hope the first one, and I'm gonna say it now. I say it in public now. I have to do it right. So that's called accountability. Just saying mental coaching, right? So my second book, which actually was my third book, but that's a little bit complicated because I wrote it as a third book, will probably be published in the July August timeframe. It has again a relationship with my first book, Broken Silence, but I wanted to write something about how important it is to change the narrative of your own story to for the healing from sexual abuse. So I write a very specific book around that topic, why it's important to know how to change your narrative, right? And and I stumbled on a book and a title that I really liked, and I was a little bit inspired by it as well. And to be honest, it's a lot of people talking about being yourself, right? But actually, the way you are right now is exactly not what you should be. It's because it's not the current you that can do what you want to do in the future. It's the future you that is able to do what you want to do today. And that sounds, think about that for a moment. But we constantly in change, you know, we are constantly in change. So you have to constantly reinvent yourself to do the things that you want to do. And that's also with the stories that we tell ourselves. So people with deep traumatic experience, sometimes they're stuck in their story, and I call that, you have a story, but you are not your story. And in treatment of trauma, it's helping people to tell a different story to themselves. And let me give an example of the discussion that Ton and I had myself. I could easily tell myself the story, I'm already 62, my life as a dancer is over. And we hear that story a lot, Ton and I. We are from a certain area and therefore I cannot dance. It's a story that you tell yourself, right? And that story, once you start to change that, maybe by listening to this podcast, saying, hey, there are two old dudes talking about that they're still dancing. I believe their story. Maybe I can tell that story to myself. You have changed your narrative. Does that make sense? It sounds very complicated, but I hope when I tell it like this, that it's a little bit more clear. Now, you could see that too. Having trauma from sexual abuse is a very serious thing, and it's not about just changing one sentence. It goes a little bit deeper, but the principle is exactly the same. The principle is, what is the story that you tell yourself? And is that story that I tell myself, is that one that helps me forward, or is that maybe one that holds me back? And we have many of those, what we call false belief. I was born as I don't know. I was born as an Asian, and therefore I cannot do this. And I was born as a poor kid, and never can be rich. All these kind of things. I grew up in a family maybe where they said, boys shouldn't dance. You know, all these stories that we tell ourselves, well, we have many. That's what my second book is about, but then very specifically geared to the trauma of sexual abuse. And the second book, well, that will be then the third book published. I don't know when that is, but that's probably going to be 2024, and that's a little bit more spiritual book, and it goes a little bit over our being and where we're from, and why we think and do the things that we do on this earth, and is there maybe something else after this earth. That's my third book. Thank you for asking.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you, Sean. Very interesting, beautiful, and impressive. Two books at once. Respect of that one. So, to my earlier question, where you think you will be in 5 years and what you want to develop in the 5 years. Yes, I know the two books now. These are coming for 24, but a little bit after that one. Do you have plans or do
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
um, things,
yeah.
undone things, what you want to change?
Well, I always have plans, and sometimes too many, maybe. But yeah, no, I do have plans. I hope to stay happy and healthy for a very long time and can do what we do if it's related to this dance busters, right? After all, a dance jam. Sorry, we explained that slip of the tongue maybe another time. But if it comes to dance jams. I definitely, look forward for you and me, by the way, to work more together and see what we can develop for other dances, and not only in the dance world, by the way, but also bring maybe to other areas in life where dance can be very beneficial. You and I have thoughts about that, but personally, I definitely probably go away a little bit more from my current dance life and concentrate myself a little bit more in developing things for competitive dancers in the ballroom dance world. That's a specific thing that I still have interest in how to develop that better. So that's definitely a big part. And the second big part is my coaching towards sexual abuse victims has changed quite a bit recently, and has a lot to do with. Besides that, I would like people to not only change their narrative of, not that I want that, but I mean I think that's beneficial for them, but I also would like them to publish their stories and put it out there in the world, and that's a big thing for me too. And I like to work on those two different fields. They doesn't look that like they are very related, but they actually are, and that's probably for a different podcast.
Yes, these are so many stories. Maybe you can tell how many people are sexual abused in the world each
Yeah.
second, each 6 seconds,
I
or
wish, I
yeah.
wish I could, I could put a number to that. But I always say, every minute that we talk, there is a new victim in Europe or the US. So that's a lot. We talked about an hour. So we have 60 new victims. If you calculate and extrapolate that through the world, then it's probably true that it's more closer to one every second. So that's an enormous astronomical number of people who are abused, and so we need to bring those stories down, and hopefully we also bring so much awareness to this that the numbers finally go down instead of up.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you for that one, Sean. Did I forgot one question because we are almost on our end from our podcast? Did there would be one question what I
Could have
could
asked.
ask you, but I
Yeah.
didn't ask you?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, of course, there's always questions that one could ask about personal life. Yeah, some people want to know that too. I have two wonderful kids. I'm not married at the moment. If that's if that's a question, right? So those are the things you could ask me. Do I always want to stay in the United States? I didn't know that, to be honest. Probably I have not such a mindset that I always want to stay here. I would like to
Mhm.
explore the world, and I would like to work actually from several places in the world. That would be really nice. And then last but not least, are there other things that interest me in life? Yes, I could say that too. I'm a big foodie. I love to cook, and I love to have food too. So those are some questions that you could have asked on.
Yes, I could ask, but I know you're also American citizen,
I am, but
who
I'm
born
also
are in
Dutch.
in
Yeah,
the Netherlands.
yeah, I'm a Dutch and American citizen, since that is still
Yes,
allowed at the moment. I have a dual citizenship, as they call it, but I still, of course, feel very much Dutch as it is. Uh, I
yes,
travel to
and
the.
thank you very much, Sean, that you were so open and tell you something from what you're doing, all these interesting things. And I see the dance, you use it as a vehicle for your broken silence, sexual abuse, and this is really, really wonderful. I hope people will reach to you, because I know how much positive um, information you have for them. You are very quiet, very very calm for them, and you can open doors where they never thought that the doors could be open for them. And this is what I see in you. And you can people give trust. Maybe it's from your mental coaching also. You have a lot of tools for them, and I hope people will reach out to you. People who are sexual abused, that they can find you. People want to know more about the mental coaching, about dancing, that they reach you. So I know your work. It's really, really fantastic, and continue like that, Sean.
Well, thank you for that, of course, Tom. So a little bit self promotion of the dance gems, but it's I think it's very well received. On thank you so
Mhm.
much. I do wish that for me too, to be honest. Yeah, very
Mhm.
very well. All right, this was probably the end of this episode. A little bit a different episode than normal, but I think people are interested. Who are the people behind the dance gems? Who are the dance
Yes.
gems? And the next one will we reverse roles. Tom, I will interview you. Um, so. Let me say goodbye to our listeners and viewers, and then you can do the same too. So this was another episode of Dance Gems. We hope to see you, of course, back really soon with another topic of it. Probably it's going to be an interview with Mr. Ton Greten himself, but who knows, right? What you listen to first. All right, from here I say bye bye, and I'll see you next time.
Bye bye.